Welcome back to the Four Bells. We're in week 3 of our leg cycle. Day 2 is not a leg focused day. It's an upper body day today, which means most of our focus is going to be on upper body pushing and with a significant side order abdominal work today as well. So our big focus is going to be working on pressing. We're going to be doing some Z presses, doing some push-ups today, and then the rest of the workout is all abs all the time. How do we get ourselves ready for today's efforts? We are going to do 3 things 3 times. We start off with some very simple shoulder circles. So that means we're just going to play around with basically how can I move my arms? Can I do one arm forwards, one arm backwards, both forwards, both backwards? Any way you can swing it, any way you can move your shoulders, of course safely and controlled. We're going to be moving those shoulders around, getting them nice and lubricated before we start. From there we get into a tabletop, looking at shoulder extension. I would say probably the range of motion that we get into least with our shoulders in every day. But if you even think about it, even something as simple as walking requires shoulder extension, my ability to get the arm behind me and in turn open up the pecs, which in turn will help us press more. Last but not least, another stretch, which seems like it has nothing to do with pressing, but is really going to help us in our overhead position, is stretching the lats today. So we're going to show you a very simple way of stretching the lats. All you need is a door frame. So we're going to do these 3 things 3 times and get ourselves ready for the strength piece. When we are starting off with shoulder circles today, you can start in very small ways, just articulating that shoulder joint, what's known as a controlled articular rotation. Can we move that shoulder joint nice and controlled? So you can start with little shrugs forwards, you can do big circles backwards, big circles forwards, basically anything that makes you feel good. One arm forwards, one arm backwards. Look at this stuff for 30 seconds. Anything that makes you feel good. From there, we're gonna get into a tabletop. So we start in that L-sit position. We're gonna have the hands by the hips, pushing up. We send the hips up to the ceiling and make yourself look like a tabletop, which means 90 degrees in the shoulder, 90 degrees in the knee. Hips come through the hands and we push back up. 10 of your finest tabletops, trying to open the shoulders, open the hips, open those hamstrings. From there, we're gonna jump up, get ourselves into a nice lat stretch. I'm trying to open up the lats today, particularly for our overhead position ahead of Z pressing. We are gonna push the hip back, grab hold of the door frame or the post and push those hips back and sit back. From here, it's really about trying to find positions that make the stretch as intense as possible for you. So that could be same arm that you're holding on with, same leg steps back. It could even be the opposite leg on the other side. You can rotate the torso around, you can look through the armpit. Either way, we're gonna spend about 30 seconds each side stretching out those wonderful lats. With our strength piece today, we have 3 pieces to it. Each set is 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, split into 3 90-second windows. And across our 4 sets that we're doing today, what we're trying to do is play around with either trying to make things a little bit more challenging, if that's possible, holding on to quality repetitions, or holding on to an isometric. So with our first one we're looking at today, the Z press, basically a nice strict overhead press. We're gonna be moving for 45 seconds. So looking at shoulder endurance and seeing how often we can move a weight for a period of time. If you can across the 5 sets, we're gonna try and get progressively heavier in dumbbells if that's available to you. But if we're noticing that we're taking extended breaks during that 45-second window, this is no bueno. We wanna be trying to move for the whole 45 seconds. From there into our second 90 seconds, we're looking at push-ups. So for push-ups, we notice we've got a 10 to 15 rep window. I would say if you're new to the push-up game or you're working on your push-ups, let's stay lower on that end. So that may mean maybe I'm doing 1 or 2 reps on the floor and then the rest of my reps are scaled. Maybe I'm on the stairs at home and I'm doing all 10 scaled on a stair, up on my stairs or on the edge of the couch, whatever works. But if you're very good at push-ups, then we should be pushing that rep range and aiming for 15 reps each time. Last but not least, working a little bit on the shoulders, but mostly on the abdominals. We're gonna be doing a plank on the elbows today, a true plank, really trying to brace the core, keep the abs super tight, and engage the full body as we do our abdominal bracing. So we're gonna do these 3 things 4 times today. Let's take a look at how they should go down. Starting off with the Z press, you'll notice Ben has got himself in a nice little straddle position with straight legs. All we're looking to do is to keep the abs tight and drive those dumbbells to overhead. Trying to minimize any lean backwards. Ooh, like a little very uncomfortable seated incline press, or any press forwards if the shoulders are tight, out in front of the body. Keeping the abs tight, we press straight overhead. 45 seconds of continuous work if we can. From there, we're gonna flip over into a push-up, and it doesn't really matter whether you are on a box, on the couch, on the stairs. All we're trying to do is have that same shoulder position. So hands are shoulder width, we're keeping the elbows grazing the rib cage, protecting those shoulders and overemphasizing those beautiful triceps, keeping that nice tight plank position, somewhere between 10 to 15 reps. Last but not least, the plank on the bows. We set our elbows up directly below the shoulder joint. Feet can either be hip width, feet together, whatever you feel like you can brace most with. We are going to squeeze the glutes, draw the elbows down towards the toes, draw the toes up towards the elbows, brace the entire everything. If you're shaking, you are doing it right. 45 seconds of plank on the elbows. 4 sets of Z press, push up, and plank on the bows. Today's conditioning piece is all abs all the time. We're doing 3 different abdominal exercises that all have kind of a different flavor and a different approach to them. The common theme throughout all 3 is how we brace our abdominals, and we're gonna have to do that in slightly different ways depending on the exercise. So let's talk about how the conditioning piece is gonna work. It's gonna be 4 rounds. 4 rounds of these 3 exercises, which means a 12-minute conditioning piece. And you'll notice it says here 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off. So that means for each of these minute stations, we're gonna work for 45 seconds, then we've got 15 seconds to transition to the next exercise. The first exercise we're gonna look at is the dead bug. With the dead bug, very similar to the hollow body hold, the only difference is we're gonna be moving contralaterally, which means moving opposite hand and opposite leg, which takes not only a huge amount of mental focus, but also a lot of control in terms of how we move those limbs. From there, we're looking at the ab wheel rollout, an exercise in anti-extension. The ab wheel wants to kind of make us arch our back. We have to learn to keep the rib cage down and brace and keep the whole body as a tight whole piece as we roll out and roll back in. Last but not least, the Russian twist. These exercises can be butchered and they kind of get talked about badly. People are like, oh, you don't want to do a Russian twist, you're gonna hurt your back. They can only hurt your back if you are moving like a crazy person and flailing around all over the place. We're gonna talk about how to brace your abs and work on rotational strength through the abdominals. So let's take a look at all 3 of these and how they go down in today's conditioning piece. When we start with the dead bug, very similar to the hollow body hold, we're trying to push the low back into the floor and keep the abdominals tight. You'll notice how Ben is moving opposite hand and opposite leg. This is the fitness equivalent of patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. The difficult part here is just making sure that as we move the arms and legs down, we don't lose that bracing in the abdominals and that contact with the low back. So 45 seconds of dead bugs. From there, we get into some ab wheel rollouts. So with the ab wheel rollout, we're looking to keep that rib cage down, and it's all about the sequence of initiation. So we start by pushing the hips forwards first. Hips open, and then the arms reach out. When the arms reach out, the arms then come back in first, and then the hips come back in. So it's that sequencing we're trying to stay true to. Hips, then arms, arms, and then hips. Only thing we're trying to avoid is what we like to call the stripper rollout, which is where we open the hips, arms come out, and then it's booty back first. Oh, nice to look at, not great for your low back. If you don't have an ab wheel, what is your option? We can do a little Superman walkout, which means we start on a plank, and then we're gonna walk the hands out as far as we can. Can we keep going? Oh, yep. No death by mat. Ben is very wise there. Keep walking the hands out. How far can we go? How far can we go? How far can we go? Pause, and then we walk the hands back in. And that's all we're gonna do for 45 seconds. See how far we can walk those hands out. Last but not least, with the Russian twist, mat engaged for your bum on a hard floor. We are gonna look at bracing the abdominals as we rotate. So bringing the feet off the floor, we're gonna balance on the bum, very similar to boat pose in yoga, or like the middle of a V-up or a tuck V-up. All we're gonna do is gently and slowly rotate, but every time I'm rotating, I'm bracing the abs as hard as possible. Ben, drop the dumbbell for a second and show us a flappy, terrible Russian twist. Just flapping around, no engagement, just rotating. That's what we don't want to do in a Russian twist. So, 45 seconds of dead bugs, 45 seconds of ab wheel, 45 seconds of Russian twist. We're doing that 4 times. All the abs, all the time. Have fun, kids.